Good Thursday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for April the 27th. Today, we are reading together in Numbers chapter 23, which is going to begin a few chapters of the Balaam's oracles, or at least his storyline, involving Balaam the prophet and Balak the king of Moab, who is very scared about what the Israelites are doing. We're going to see how he receives word and knows about their conquering of the people they faced so far. And he thinks, well, you know what? They're coming at me. They've had a lot of success. I've got to pull out all the stops. I've got to pull out all the big guns. So what better thing to do than to call on this prophet for hire, who Balak is very convinced has the ability to sway the tide to his side. So let's read about that here in Numbers chapter 22, beginning in verse number 1. I get the text up on the screen for us, and we'll begin reading here together. Numbers 22 and verse number 1. Numbers 22, verse number 1. The Israelites traveled on and camped in the plains of Moab near the Jordan across from Jericho. Now Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. Moab was terrified of the people because they were numerous, and Moab dreaded the Israelites. So the Moabites said to the elders of Midian, "This horde will devour everything around us, like an ox eats up the green plants in the fields." Since Balak saw, since Balak, son of Zippor, was Moab's king at the time, he sent messengers to Balaam, son of Beor, at Pethor, which is by the Euphrates, in the land of his people. Balak said to him, "Look, a people has come out of Egypt. They cover the surface of the land and are living right across from me. Please come and put a curse on these people for me, because they are more powerful than I am. I may be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land, for I know that those you bless are blessed, and those you curse are cursed." The elders of Moab and Midian departed with fees for divination in hand. They came to Balaam and reported Balak's words to him. He said to them, "Spend the night here, and I will give you the answer Yahweh tells me." So the officials of Moab stayed with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and asked, "Who are these men with you?" Balaam replied to God, "Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent this message to me. Look, a people has come out of Egypt, and they cover the surface of the land. Now come and put a curse on them for me. I may be able to fight against them and drive them away." Then God said to Balaam, "You are not to go with them. You are not to curse this people, for they are blessed." So Balaam got up the next morning and said to Balak's officials, "Go back to your land, because Yahweh has refused to let me go with you." The officials of Moab arose, returned to Balak, and reported Balaam refused to come with us. Balak sent officials again, who were more numerous and higher in rank than the others. They came to Balaam and said to him, "This is what Balak, son of Zippor, says. Let nothing keep you from coming to me, for I will greatly honor you and do whatever you ask me. So please come and put a curse on these people for me." But Balaam responded to the servants of Balak, "If Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go against the command of Yahweh my God to do anything small or great. Please stay here overnight as the others did, so that I may find out what else Yahweh has to tell me." God came to Balaam at night and said to him, "Since these men have come to summon you, get up and go with them, but you must only do what I tell you." When he got up in the morning, Balaam saddled his donkey and went with the officials of Moab. But God was incensed that Balaam was going, and the angel of Yahweh took his stand on the path to oppose him. Balaam was riding his donkey, and his two servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of Yahweh standing on the path with a sword drawn in his hand, she turned off the path and went into the field. So Balaam hit her to return her to the path. Then the angel of Yahweh stood in a narrow passage between the vineyards with a stone wall on each side. The donkey saw the angel of Yahweh and pressed herself against the wall, squeezing Balaam's foot against it. So he hit her once again. The angel of Yahweh went ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn to the right or the left. When the donkey saw the angel of Yahweh, she crouched down under Balaam. But he became furious and beat the donkey with a stick. Then Yahweh opened the donkey's mouth, and she asked Balaam, "What have I done to you, that you have beaten me these 3 times?" Verse 29, Balaam answered his donkey, "You made me look like a fool. If I had a sword in my hand, I'd kill you now." But the donkey said, "Am I not the donkey you've ridden all your life until today? Have I ever treated you this way?" "No," he replied. Then Yahweh opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of Yahweh standing in the path with a drawn sword in his hand. Balaam knelt low and bowed in worship on his face. The angel of Yahweh asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? Look, I came out to oppose you because I consider what you are doing to be evil." The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If she had not turned away from me, I would have killed you now and let her live. Balaam said to the angel of Yahweh, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing in the path to confront me. And now, if it is evil in your sight, I will go back." Then the angel of Yahweh said to Balaam, Go with the men, but you are to say only what I tell you." So Balaam went with Balak's officials, and when Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the Moabite city, on the Arnon border at the edge of his territory. Balak asked Balaam, "Did I not send you an urgent summons? Why didn't you come to me? Am I really not able to reward you?" Balaam said to him, "Look, I have come to you, but can I say anything I want? I must speak only the message God puts in my mouth." So Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kiriath Huzoth. Balak sacrificed cattle, sheep, and goats, and sent for Balaam and the officials who were with him. In the morning, Balak took Balaam and brought him to Bamoth Baal. From there, he saw the outskirts of the people's camp. And that is Numbers chapter 22. This chapter, and really this entire story, is quite an interesting one, isn't it? It's one that is in some ways very humorous. Just the absolute ridiculousness and silliness of this story is very real, but also the seriousness of it and the fatal mistakes that Balaam makes within this story, just showing his blatant disregard for who Yahweh truly is, showing that he's nothing but a someone who's looking out for himself. He's a very slick negotiator. He's very conniving, very he's like a snake, very quick to gain an advantage for himself. Here we're going to see that really Yahweh is the one who is in control this entire time. So looking at this story, then again, we've seen the victories that Israel has just previously had. They had a victory over the king of Arad. They also had a victory over King Sihon. They had a victory over King Og. So they've had victories leading up to this. And as we see, the king of Moab here, his name is Balak. He kind of sees the writing on the wall. He sees the direction in which Israel's going. He's thinking, I'm next in line. I need to preemptively strike this people, try to gain the upper hand. And I can do that through this prophet for hire. He knows about Balaam. Balaam obviously has a very well-known presence within the land. His reputation precedes him as being someone who was able to get stuff done. And very interestingly, there's actually some extra biblical evidence concerning Balaam, and that he was a priest of the gods Shigar and Ashtar. They were ones that he would plead with and interact with and say that he received prophecy and divination from, and people look to him for guidance. They look to him in order to buy his services, to gain advantages for themselves, just as Balak does here. Now it's just so interesting that whenever Balak does send this first group to Balaam, that he speaks about Yahweh. That's very interesting. I really, honestly, I just don't know what to make of it. But one thing that does need to stand out to us is that Balak just has this whole thing completely wrong. You probably noticed in verse number 6 that Balak says of Balaam. That's going to happen a lot, so just bear with me, please. These names being so similar. Balak says to Balaam, I know that you, referring to Balaam, I know that those you bless are blessed and those you curse are cursed. That should ring a bell. That sounds a lot like what Yahweh said to Moses in Genesis 12, and I think Genesis 15 as well, if not other places. So Balak is approaching this just the worst way possible. Not only is he going and attributing to Balaam what belongs to God, but the very people that he is imploring, this prophet whom he is attributing divine power to, is against the people that's actually his. So Balak is just absolutely up the creek without a paddle at this point. He's already made very severe mistakes. He really is blaspheming the name of Yahweh here in this moment. But Balaam does say that I will give you the answer Yahweh tells me. He knows the covenant name of God. That's very interesting to me. I don't know why that is the case. Possibly the fame of Yahweh has spread so much that not only are the people well known, but their God who's given them the victory is well known. Maybe that's what's going on here in this moment. It could also be that he's going to try to negotiate with anyone he can. If he can negotiate with the gods of these people, then he's going to do that very thing. Again, he's very skilled, very slick, very sly negotiator, and he's going to do what he can in order to make some coin for himself and keep up this reputation of being someone that people can go to buy his services. Well, whenever God comes to Balaam, he asks a question, and this is not a question where he's actually looking for information. He's just opening up the conversation and maybe allowing Balaam to really think about what's going on here. He asks, well, who are these men with you? Again, Yahweh knows who that is, but he explains, well, these are the people that are worried about the people that are coming out of Egypt, that they want me to curse them and drive them away. And God gives him the answer, you are not to go with them. You are not to curse this people, for they are blessed. Again, referencing Genesis 12 and 15, I believe, where God tells Abraham, those who bless you, I will bless, and those who curse you, I will curse. You are my covenant people. I am your God. You're my people. We're good to go. We've got this. And that's what that's what God tells Balaam here. Don't mess with these people. They're doing exactly what I want them to do. So notice that whenever Balaam gets up the next morning, and this story spans the length of about 6 days. I don't know if these are 6 consecutive days, but we have 3 sets of day and the next morning, day and the next morning, and day and the next morning. On this first set of day and the next morning, Balaam gets up, speaks with Balak's official, says, you have to go back to your land because Yahweh has refused to let me go with you. That's all he says, which is true, but he doesn't say exactly what Yahweh said. So in return, the officials go back to Moab, to Balak, and say that Balaam has refused to come with us, which again, that's not true. That's not what happened. It isn't just that the Lord has refused to let me go with you, but it seems as if it is, I would go with you, but he won't let me. And then the people go back and they say, well, he won't come. And they don't mention that this is at the will of the God that he has spoken with. So keep that in mind. Just things aren't always said exactly the way that they are, at least maybe from Balaam's perspective. He rightfully acknowledges what Yahweh says, but maybe there is, and of course we can't read into this absolutely, but maybe there is a hint of, I would like to go with you, but Yahweh has said I can't. That seems very fitting with Balaam's character here. So Balak sends him back in, says, hey, take a blank check, go figure this out. We've got to get his help or else we're going to be toast. So Balak sends people back to Balaam. This time there's more of them. They are higher in rank. And he says, please let me do this. Please come and let nothing keep you from doing what I would like for you to do. But Balaam responded to the servants, if Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go against the command of Yahweh my God to do anything small or great. End of story, right? But not. Because he says, please stay here overnight, as the others did, so I may find out what else Yahweh has to tell me. Hopefully he'll change his mind. Hopefully he'll let me go do what I want to do, because that's what Balaam's looking for here. He's looking for a payday. He's a very slick negotiator. So God does come to Balaam at night and said, well, since these men have come to summon you, get up and go with them. But you must only do what I tell you. I almost sense some sarcasm here, almost I think about it as being a parent. My child asks me for something and I give an answer. And then they ask me again and I'm just frustrated. I want to put up with this. I'm like, fine, please just go do it. And I might throw in some other stipulations, but it is a reluctant, just go. You're not listening to me anyways, just go. That seems to be, to me, the way Yahweh is treating this discussion here. And I say that based upon the fact that he comes right back from this and says very, very plainly in verse 22 that God was incensed that Balaam was going. It doesn't make sense for him to allow him to go if that truly is what Yahweh wants, and then to still be mad at him. It seems that if he is letting stubborn, which that's interesting because here comes a donkey, stubborn Balaam do what he wants to do while still holding him accountable to what Yahweh himself has said. Again, the story is there's the donkey. The donkey has greater spiritual insight than the prophet, which is just humorously ironic as it is. Sees the angel of Yahweh, goes into field. Balaam pulls her back. Sees the angel of Yahweh blocking the narrow way with walls on two sides. Stops. Balaam gets mad. Sees the angel of Yahweh in this narrow place, just sits down. Balaam gets mad, starts beating the donkey. The Yahweh opens up the donkey's mouth and speaks to Balaam and says, "What have I done to you that you have beaten me these 3 times?" Notice that Balaam just talks to the donkey like this doesn't faze him at all, that a donkey is talking to him now. Why is it that people speaking to animals don't freak out? Why didn't Eve freak out whenever the serpent spoke to her? Why doesn't Balaam freak out here that the donkey begins to speak? I don't have the answer for that. I just think it's quite interesting. But nonetheless, Balaam just answers the donkey, "You made me look like a fool. If I had a sword in my hand right now, I'd kill you." Here's the irony. If Balaam thinks he has the right to kill this donkey for stubborn disobedience, then how much more of a right does Yahweh have to kill Balaam for his stubborn disobedience? So the donkey says, "Hey, I've done well for you. You've ridden me forever. Haven't I always done what you want to? Haven't I always taken care of you?" And I was like, "Yeah, you take care of me. No, you've never treated me like this before. You never disobeyed me before." And it's at that point that Yahweh opens Balaam's eyes so that he can see what's going on. When Balaam sees the angel of Yahweh standing there with a sword in his hand, he falls on his face and worships. And then the angel of Yahweh goes in on him. This is God. I believe this is a manifestation of Yahweh himself. And he speaks to Balaam, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? Look, I came to oppose you because I consider what you were doing to be evil. The donkey saw me and turned away from me 3 times. And if she would not have turned away, I'd have killed you. You'd be done." But Balaam says to the angel of Yahweh, "I have sinned. I did not know that you were here, that you were standing in the path to confront me. And now if it is evil on your side, I will go back." So is this true contrition here? I guess so. I guess this is real contrition on behalf of Balaam. I can't speak with certainty because really nothing on its face seems to be right and real with this man. So we'll assume that it is. We'll assume this is true contrition. But the angel of Yahweh says, no, you're going to go. But again, remember, only say what I tell you to say. So whenever Balaam arrives and Balak goes out to meet him, Balak says to him, "Did I not send you an urgent summons? Why didn't you come to me? Why did I have to send a second one? Am I really not able to reward you? Why won't you let me use your services?" And Balaam says, "Look, I have come to you, but can I say anything I want? I must speak only the message that God puts in my mouth." I guess that's good enough for Balak because he offers these sacrifices. This is really a big feast that he's given in Balaam's honor. And we're left wondering, well, what's going to happen here? Because in the morning, Here's a second set, I guess it is. Balak took Balaam and brought him to Bamoth Baal, and there he saw the outskirts of Baal's camp. He brought him to a high place where Baal is worshipped. They're looking out, they're seeing the children of Israel, and we're left wondering at the end of this chapter, all right, what's the next move? What is Balaam going to do? Is he going to listen to the words of Yahweh, or is his greed going to get the best of him? Is his conniving self going to show forth? What's going to happen in chapter 23? We'll learn that tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to read chapters 23 and 24 together to finish out this story of Balak and Balaam and their conniving against the children of God. I appreciate so much you tuning in for this reading on this Thursday. Hope it's been a good read for you. Hope that you maybe become a little more familiar with the story. It's one that's familiar to us if we read our New Testaments, because it's mentioned in the book of Jude, I believe it is. Balaam's donkey is kind of a well-known story because, again, it just shows the irony of the inside of a stubborn, dull donkey is so much better than this proclaimed great prophet. What about us? Are we dull of seeing? Are we dull of hearing? May God help us to have good perception of him and his word, and to be humble and to not try to maneuver our way into some sort of advantage over others, to think that we can use God against others. No, we need to be servants. We need to be humble. We need to submit ourselves fully to the will of God in every way. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow as we read together from Numbers chapter 24 and 25. Hope to see you then. Take care and God bless.